Hey, this will be daily video, I don't know, 74? 75? Something like that. I just saw this discussion somewhere where people were asking, does it matter if you're in a 3-note trump and you have about 25 points, does it matter if the two hands north and south have the same strength or a different strength? So is it bad if you have, I don't know, 25 plus 0 rather than 12 plus 13? And I think we all have this intuition and experience from our bridge that actually it does matter, right? So like if you have 20 opposite 6, then you will have maybe like 1 or 2 entries only. Even 2 is quite a lot. And you have to figure out which finesse to take. So there was a discussion about this, and I thought I would simulate and show you the results. So what you see here is a double dummy analysis over 100,000 hands, each of those having 23 points north-south, and then I changed this point count as well. And I have 10 sets because that way you can see if one of the sets are lucky or unlucky. You can see that more or less each set is gives the similar trend, but then especially at like higher high card point differences, you will see a bigger spread, right? So for example, would be, I think, 17 high card points. You would have one of the sets have maybe like 8% and the other one has maybe 18%. So quite a large stretch. That's just because those high card point differences are less likely. But you can see that there is some notion that you could justify based on this, and at least for 23 there is this trend. Although like here for like 1 high card point is not so clear, right? And then for five it's still quite similar. So what you can do here, for example, is look at the actual numbers and try to do some statistics, and then you would get something like this. This is, so I can come back bottom left. So here you can see these blue symbols are the average plus minus the standard error of the mean, which is kind of like the uncertainty that we have over the average, because the average itself could move along if we added more data or removed some data. And the red lines are kind of like where the difference of 1 would lie, roughly. So this point that is blue, plus minus 2 standard errors is roughly what scientists would say. So in this case, 1 and 3 are kind of compatible, but 1 and 5 are not. Anyway, so what this would suggest is like, well, for 23 there seems to be a trend, right? And then let's look at the others. And also let's see, even if there is a trend, the question is how important this is. And if we look at this one, now we have 23 in purple. Not the smartest way. Now I have an issue moving somewhere useful. Let me come here and let me move the plot a bit that way. So what this tells us now is that actually this trend is not there at all for like 24, 25 or 26. So the green one is quite flat until about 10 high card points difference, and it's the same for like the blue, which is 25, all the way up to about 13 points or so, and for 26 it's still quite high. And the other thing that you should mention is, like, imagine we have 24 high card points. For some reason we know it for sure, and then we would say, well, but it's true that we have 24, but we have this unequal strength between the hands, so we should downgrade. So how much should we downgrade if we have an unequal strength? So let's say if you're here at 20, that would be 22 opposite 2. That's the delta of 20 summing up to 24. You are still above the values for 23 high card points in total. So the answer is that unless you're somehow that extreme, like 20 plus 22, sorry, 22 plus 22, then you shouldn't really downgrade for it. So let's say if you're here at 10, this is, what is this? 18 plus 8? No, it's 17 plus 7. So 17 plus 7 and 12 plus 2, 12 plus 12 are actually give the same results. So just because you have 7 and your partner has 17, for some reason you know that this is the case, it doesn't mean, well, it's true that we have 24, but we're unequal, so it's more like we have 23. It's actually nowhere near 23, it's this area. And the same would go, if you have 25 and you want to downgrade to 24, you would need to be somewhere around here. Again, about 20 points difference. Anything less than 20, you shouldn't really downgrade at all. Maybe half a point, but then if we're gonna add and subtract half points in our hand evaluation, I think we're just kidding ourselves. Hand evaluation is not an exact science, and this is another point of view that shouldn't really be taken into account. Now, one more thing is that these are double dummy simulations, and I could probably make an argument that if you have this unequal distribution of strength, then it's maybe more important to play double dummy declare play, because that way, like I said, you only have one finesse to take or so, and then it can easily be that you have a choice between several ones, and then you would always pick the one that works the best. And maybe if you have 12 opposite 12, then you can try all the finesses. But I'm not sure I buy this, because often what's going on, they knock out your stop, and then you have to play everything double dummy, regardless of how the strength is distributed. So bottom line, ignore unequal distribution unless it's extreme. So like unless you're like, I don't know, the difference between the two hands is like 16 or 18 or 20. Maybe then you can think of upgrading or downgrading. Even there, another caveat to this caveat is that even there, let's say if your partner opens 2-no trump 2021 and you have this 3-4 point hand and you're not sure if you're supposed to go to game, then often there you can find a 5-3 major fit or a 4-4 major fit, so you should actually stretch to Stamen or transfer or puppet Stamen or do something, because 2-no trump sucks as a contract, so it probably makes sense to look for game anyway. Even if from some analysis like this you would figure out like, oh, I shouldn't be in 3-no trump. Well, okay, but still 4 of a major is probably better than 2-no trump in many of those cases if you can find a fit. So ignore this advice. No, well, not this advice, obviously. My advice is great, but the expert advice that the unequal distribution of strength is a minus. It is, but only at very high values. So that's it. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk. See you tomorrow.